Have you ever felt the fear of missing out, FOMO? That anxiety that if you don't act now, you'll lose your chance. Maybe it's a sale, a job opportunity, or even a social event. But imagine if FOMO wasn't about missing a party, but missing out on power. Imagine if one man's fear of being forgotten, overlooked, or denied greatness led to one of the darkest chapters in human history. This is the story of Adolf Hitler. To understand why Adolf Hitler rose to power, we have to go back, way back, to a time of uncertainty, humiliation, and desperation. Hitler didn't rise overnight, and he didn't do it alone. His success was the result of Germany's struggles, people's fears, and his own relentless ambition. In 1918, Germany lost World War I, and when the war ended, so did the country's pride, economy, and stability. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was like a death sentence for Germany. It forced the country to accept full responsibility for the war, a humiliation known as the War Guilt Clause, pay massive reparations, a debt so large that it crippled the economy, give up huge amounts of land to other nations, reduce its military, leaving it weak and vulnerable. Germany, once a mighty empire, was now broken, angry, and desperate. The people felt betrayed. How could their once great country be in ruins? Many refused to believe Germany had truly lost. Some even spread the idea that the army had been stabbed in the back by politicians and traitors. This was the perfect breeding ground for extremism. After the war, Germany's economy collapsed. People lost their jobs, their savings became worthless, and starvation spread. By the early 1920s, Germany was suffering from hyperinflation. Imagine waking up one day and finding out that the money in your pocket could barely buy a loaf of bread. The next day, you'd need a wheelbarrow full of cash just to afford a meal. At the same time, the government was weak. The Weimar Republic, Germany's democratic system, was struggling to hold the country together. Political parties were fighting, arguing, and failing to solve problems. People were looking for a strong leader, someone who could restore order and make Germany powerful again. Hitler saw an opportunity. He knew what the people wanted to hear. He promised hope, strength, and revenge. He told the struggling workers, the humiliated soldiers, and the unemployed youth that they deserved better. He didn't just offer speeches. He offered someone to blame. The Treaty of Versailles is the enemy. The politicians betrayed you. The Jews, communists, and outsiders are destroying Germany. Hitler's ability to tap into anger and fear made him a powerful speaker. His words were more than just words. They were a rallying cry. And with every speech, every newspaper article, and every carefully crafted piece of propaganda, more people believed in him. Hitler joined the German Workers' Party in 1919, a small, radical group. Within just a few years, he transformed it into the Nazi Party, National Socialist German Workers' Party. The party's message was simple. Germany must be strong again. Germany needs a leader, not weak politicians. The enemies of Germany must be eliminated. With violent supporters known as the SA, stormtroopers, Hitler used fear and intimidation to silence his opponents. Riots, street fights, assassinations. Chaos was everywhere, and many Germans started to believe that only a strong hand could fix it. In 1923, Hitler attempted to seize power by force in what became known as the Beer Hall Putsch. His plan? March into Munich, overthrow the government, and take control. But the plan failed. Hitler was arrested and sent to prison. Most people would have given up. But Hitler, he used his time in jail to prepare. There he wrote Mein Kampf, a book outlining his vision for Germany. He realized that to truly gain power, he needed to do it legally. Then came 1929. The world fell into the Great Depression, and Germany was hit the hardest. Unemployment soared. Businesses collapsed. The German people had already suffered through war, inflation, and humiliation. Now they had nothing left. This was Hitler's moment. He offered jobs, stability, a future. People believed him. In the 1932 elections, Hitler's Nazi Party became the largest in Germany. 1 year later, in 1933, he was appointed chancellor. It only took a few months for him to destroy democracy completely and declare himself Germany's absolute ruler. This wasn't just Hitler's rise. It was a perfect storm of crisis, anger, and lost hope. And Hitler knew exactly how to take advantage of it. Hitler's rule turned deadly the moment he gained absolute power. But key events marked his descent into full-scale brutality and war. 1. The Night of the Long Knives, 1934. Hitler saw threats even within his own party. To secure control, he ordered the mass execution of SA leaders and political rivals, proving no one was safe. 2. The Nuremberg Laws, 1935. Nazis passed racist laws, stripping Jews of citizenship and rights. Anti-Semitism became state policy, setting the stage for worse atrocities. 3rd Kristallnacht, 1938. A nationwide attack on Jewish businesses, homes, and synagogues. It was clear. Violence wasn't stopping. It was escalating. 4th World War II begins, 1939. When Hitler invaded Poland, the world realized his hunger for power would not stop. War, genocide, millions of deaths. The darkest chapter had begun. By April 1945, Hitler's empire was collapsing. The Allies had crushed Germany's forces, and the Soviet army was closing in on Berlin. Bombs rained down, streets burned, and Nazi leaders began to flee or surrender. Hitler, now a paranoid shell of his former self, retreated into his bunker beneath Berlin. He refused to accept defeat, issuing hopeless orders to armies that no longer existed. On April 30th, 1945, realizing all was lost, Hitler took his own life alongside his wife, Eva Braun. His body was burned to prevent capture. Days later, Germany surrendered. The man who sought absolute power, who feared insignificance, died alone in the darkness, leaving behind only destruction. His fear-driven ambition had led not to greatness, but to ruin and infamy. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. The rise and fall of Adolf Hitler is more than just a story. It's a warning, a reminder of how fear, manipulation, and unchecked ambition can drive the world into darkness. Hitler's journey to power wasn't a sudden coup or a military takeover. He didn't seize control overnight. Instead, he played on people's fears, exploited their desperation, and twisted the system from within. He convinced ordinary citizens that he was their only hope, that their problems were caused by outsiders, and that violence was the path to greatness. The most chilling part? Millions followed him, not because they were evil, but because they believed in his promises. They wanted a strong leader. They wanted security. And in their desire for a better future, they ignored the warning signs until it was too late. This pattern isn't unique to Hitler. Throughout history and even today, leaders use fear to manipulate people. They create enemies, spread propaganda, and present themselves as the only solution. They silence opposition, rewrite history, and demand loyalty, not through respect, but through fear. So, what can we learn? Never let fear control your judgment. Fear makes people desperate, and desperation makes them blind to the dangers right in front of them. Question those who promise simple answers to complex problems. Scapegoating a group, a country, or a community is always a red flag. Understand history. The more we learn from the past, the less likely we are to repeat it. In the end, Hitler didn't just destroy others, he destroyed himself. His hunger for power left Germany in ruins, cost millions of lives, and made his name synonymous with evil. His story is a reminder. Power built on fear never lasts, and those who rise through hatred always fall.